What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am, of course, your host who does the most, Ethan Smith, and of course, I am back, and we'll be explaining why you guys haven't been getting some episodes lately. But on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates last week and how I predicted their record correctly. Actually, shouts out to Dave White for reminding me about that. And of course, as well, we're going to talk about the bullpen and their dominance and if it can continue throughout the rest of the 2022 year and a big reason why it has been so dominant. And then we're also going to take a look at the week ahead as well as my prediction for what their record will be as the Pittsburgh Pirates head back to PNC Park to take on the Milwaukee Brewers and the San Diego Padres. Before we get into today's episode, thank you for making me your first listen of the day every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates every day. You can follow me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan and at Locked On Pirates. Today's episode is also brought to you by the wonderful people over at BetOnline.ag. BetOnline, of course, has all of your betting needs that you need. If you want to bet on the Pirates, who are currently 9-7 against the spread on the year right now, you can do that. So, with all that said, when the intro hits, you know it's time to get real, so let's have a fun episode.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast. It is your host, Ethan Smith, who does the most. And before we get started today, I want to extend an apology out to everybody for the lack of episodes that you guys have gotten over the last couple of weeks. Big reason for that, a lot of you know, the job that I currently am working has me working 10 to 10 a lot of days. And there's just really no time for me to get an episode out to you guys. So for the first couple minutes of this podcast, if you want to skip me talking about this, I'll say probably around the 5 or 6 minute mark is when we'll get into everything today about the Pirates. But I just wanted to extend my apologies to everybody and kind of give you an update on your host who does the most. So I've been working this job 10 to 10 some days, and you notice that most of the days you were getting it were Monday and Tuesdays, and that was because I have those mornings off. I was working 10 to 10 the last couple of weeks, Wednesday through Friday. So there was no way for me to watch the games, which is why you would probably notice that I was asking, hey, what's going on with the game? And I just don't think that's fair for me to create an episode about the team when I was physically not able to watch the game. And I hope everybody can understand that. I could still get my takeaways from the box scores and everything, but it's just not the same. So, with that said, I am actually departing from that current job in favor of this podcast and working a new one that is much more flexible with my schedule to where you guys will be getting the best host who does the most all the time. And I think it's very fun that I could share this with you guys. I love everybody that comments and listens to this podcast, and that's why I made that decision, because I was having everyone who listens to this podcast in my best interests as well as my own when I made that decision. So it may be shaky for about another week or two, but I am here. We are all here, and you guys showing your support for this podcast is what drove me to make that decision, because I want this podcast to be the best Pittsburgh Pirates podcast out there. And a big reason for that is because of the amount of support that I get on Twitter, the amount of support I get on comments on YouTube, the downloads, the listens on Spotify, Odyssey, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, you know the spiel. But thank you guys for sticking with it. I promise over these next couple of weeks, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot better. We are doing Twitter Tuesdays as a new segment that we are doing, so make sure you get your questions in at Locked On Pirates on Twitter. But with all that said, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, the Pirates finished the week at 3-4 last week, a week that featured a lot of ups and a lot of downs. Some of those downs, of course, were the beginning of the road stand, where the Pirates, of course, were swept by the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee, which at this point in my Pirates fandom, I've just learned to accept that that is still Miller Park and it is still the House of Horrors. And then just some wild stuff just kept happening in Chicago in Wrigley that whole series. The Pirates win the first two games. Then Saturday they lose 21 to nothing, and I didn't even know what to say when they did that. It was the largest, most lopsided loss in franchise history. And then they come back on Sunday and win again and end up 3-4. Shouts out to Dave White, by the way, for letting me know that my prediction with Gary last week was 100% correct. I said they were going to go 3-4. Gary said 2-5. So I have the upper hand on him. And later in this episode, I will give you guys my prediction for their record this week. But if we're going to have some takeaways from this week, I think something we have to take away from here is the Pirates are going to compete with teams like Chicago. They're going to compete with teams like Washington. They're going to compete with teams like the Reds. They're going to compete with those teams. But there's still a clear, definitive gap between the Pirates and teams like the Brewers. I still think right now the Brewers are probably the favorite to win the NL Central. Of course, the Cardinals have gotten off to a good start as well. But if it were up to me, I think the Pirates, when looking at the division, have to say the Brewers and the Cardinals are what our benchmark should be for a next step. And you saw a lot of good things this past week. Michael Chavis looked good outside of yesterday's game where he had 4 strikeouts. Daniel Vogelbach did good in Milwaukee. But again, and what we'll talk about a lot more in the next segment, is the bullpen just continues to be dominant. It just continues to get the Pirates out of things. It continues to just be consistently good. And it was like this last year, if you may remember, with Richard Rodriguez and Clay Holmes and a lot of those guys that were traded off at the deadline. But this bullpen has been the biggest part of what the Pirates brass and what the coaching staff and the players are attributing a lot of their wins to, for good reason. I'd like to see the starting pitching become a little bit better. Right now, it's currently 27th in the league in ERA. Meanwhile, the Pirates bullpen is first in the league in ERA. But some other things. I mean, the Brian Reynolds triple was awesome. It was all over SportsCenter. It was all over all your social media airwaves, where he just ran past second, and as soon as he did it, I was like, "Yep, he's going to score." Um, Jake Marisnick yesterday in the game, I don't think got enough love for those 2 awesome plays he had in right field to save the game and allowing David Bednar to get out of that bases loaded jam. But this team is fun, man. It's going to be a very interesting season in terms of the fact that this isn't even the final product of the 2022 Pirates. You're still waiting for guys like O'Neal Cruz. You're still waiting for Roansy Contreras to truly get his feet in Pittsburgh as a starter. You're still waiting on guys like Travis Swaggerty and potentially Canaan Smith and Jigba, Cal Mitchell, and other guys that can make the move up. There's going to be a lot of prospects making the move up pretty soon, so this isn't even the final product yet. But the Pirates finished the week 3-4, win a series in Chicago, go into their homestand at 8-8 today on the off day. But before we get into why this bullpen has been so dominant in my eyes and why I think that it can be sustainable, today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. With spring in the air, it's a time of renewal and growth, personally and professionally. As your small business grows, LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond, to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job in the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring, so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading customers. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free, and terms and conditions apply. Also, moving into today's episode as well, make sure you listen to the Locked On Now podcast, where your local experts, including myself and others, are covering everything going on in the world of sports, which there's a lot going on this week. Baseball's in full swing. The NHL is about to head to the playoffs. The NFL draft is this Thursday, and the NBA playoffs are fully in the thick of it. It's a fun time. Even MLS soccer and the UEFA Champions League are going on, if you're into that kind of stuff as well. College baseball. There's lots going on in the world of sports, and Locked On Now has you covered. Looking at this Pirates bullpen, by the way, that's all I could say. The starting pitching has been awful, which I kind of expected. But this bullpen, man, has done a great job at just shutting things down, dude. You look at what the starters have done, and the Pirates have given up the most runs of any team in the first 2 innings of a game. I believe it was 33 the last time I checked, but that's still way too much. The bullpen comes in, and it just seems like it's just a shift in momentum immediately. It just feels like the entire momentum of a game just immediately shifts from, oh, we're beating up the starter, to, crap, we have to face the Pirates bullpen now. And that is a great thing to have. Statistically, if we're looking over some of this stuff right now, Dylan Peters, Will Crowe, and David Bednar, in almost nearly 30 innings of work. Crowe has 10 and 1/3. Crowe has 13 and 1/3. Peters 10 and 1/3. Bednar 8 innings. Combined, they have appeared in 18 games already. 18 games. And they have yet to allow a run. All 3 of them have a 0 ERA right now. All of them, as my camera, bloopers, haha, there we go. As my camera just fell. My camera fell because even it was in shock. They have a 0 ERA. And don't worry, it gets better. Heath Hembree has a 2.84 ERA in 6 and 1/3 innings of work. Chris Stratton has a 3.18 ERA in 7 games of work in 5 and 2/3 innings. The most hits given up out of the bullpen right now, Will Crowe with 7. Roansy Contreras, Heath Hembree, David Bednar, Dylan Peters, and Aaron Fletcher have all given up less than 7 hits. Aaron Fletcher has a 6.14 ERA, which is driving that ERA up a bit. But you look at what this bullpen has done, and it's not just about the statistics. It's not even close to just about what I just told you. They just go out there and basically look at the hitters they're facing and say, you can't hit me. You can't. That's what they're saying. And it's good that the Pirates are doing this and having a very reliable bullpen. But like many of you that I've seen on Twitter, I have the same kind of sentiment about overusing a bullpen. And I don't want the Pirates to fall into the trap where the bullpen gets tired and then the starters have to go longer. But one thing we have seen from the starters for most of the year is those first 2 innings are a crapshoot. They just are. But then after that, like we saw yesterday, they settle in. Like JT Brubaker, I think he was a little under the weather yesterday. That's the reason he came out a lot earlier. But after that first inning, he settled in very nicely. He gave them 3 innings of work, only gave up 3 hits. I said, okay, this is fine. I can deal with that. If they could just shake it out of their head with this giving up 2 or 3 runs in the first inning thing, they'd probably have longer starts. And I do agree with how Derek Shelton is using the bullpen right now. I agree with how he's using the starters. He wants the starters to prove to him that they can go through the order a third time. If he does not believe that they prove that to him, it's not going to happen. They are not going to go more than 2 times through the order if they don't prove to Derek Shelton that they can do it. And there is nothing wrong with that. Because when you have a bullpen like they have right now that is just shockingly good in terms of that three-headed monster of Peters, Crow, and Bednar, why overuse your starters? If you tell me that, say tomorrow, which we'll talk about the Brewers and the uh, Padres series coming up next segment, but say tomorrow, I'll look and see who the pitching matchup is right now. Say tomorrow that the Pirates walk into this game, and it's a 6:35 game, of course, and say that their starter pitches 4 innings. So it's actually Mitch Keller. So it's Mitch Keller and Brandon Woodruff tomorrow. So say that happens. Say Mitch Keller pitches 4 innings. Will Crow comes on, pitches 5 and 6, or 2 innings, 5 and 6. Dylan Peters pitches 7 and 8. Bednar pitches 9. Is that not the recipe for success right now? I mean, it is for all intents and purposes. Now, you can't do that every day. I mean, you just can't. But the way this bullpen has shockingly basically kept the Pirates in a lot of these games, as well as even been the reason they win a lot of these games. Like yesterday was the perfect example. Bases loaded, 1 out. David Bednar just strikes out Contreras and Frank Swindell like it was nothing. But when you have a bullpen like this too, I really think that it's going to eventually settle into the starter's psyche that they have this bullpen, that they can fall back on this bullpen, that they don't have to worry about being scared of everything going on. They don't have to think about, oh, if I give up a run or two, my bullpen can't back me up. No, this bullpen right now is the best unit on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Brian Reynolds has had a tough start to the year. I would say right now the two strongest things on the Pittsburgh Pirates are their bullpen and the defense on the left side of the infield when Hayes and Newman are over there. That is really the two best units on the team right now. Roberto Perez as well has been phenomenal behind the backstop. I think he's been a great component to why this bullpen has been dominant because he recognizes, and like Gary said, and I started to notice it, he starts aiming a little higher if he sees that they're throwing too low. He starts aiming lower if he feels like they're aiming too high. He adjusts with these young guys, and that's what these young guys need. That's what Jacob Stallings was good at, but I think Roberto Perez is great at. So, with all that said, do I think the bullpen's dominance is going to continue? As of right now, yes, until they prove me otherwise. And the bullpen is very dominant. And before we get into the week ahead and my record prediction for what the Pirates can do this week, maybe the bullpen has been eating some Built Bars. Built Bars, of course, are the best tasting protein bars on the planet. Of course, Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, and they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat. And, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors, and they are all very, very good. And these are going to be your new favorite. Churro, coconut marshmallow, and banana cream pie are just a few. All Built Bars, of course, are 100% covered in real chocolate. Yes, that is Puffs included. They are low calorie, high protein, and you should replace your candy bars with these. They are better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Go to BuiltBar.com right now and scroll down to the macros chart. You'll be blown away. High protein, low calories, high fiber, and low carbs. And most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of net sugar and net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Of course, at Built Bar, they are all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every single time. Go to BuiltBar.com. Use the promo code LOCK15 and you will get 15% off of your order when you invest in the best protein bars on the market. And with that said, a look at the week ahead and my record prediction. Last week, I predicted the Pirates would go 3-4. And I was right. So let's see if we can keep that hot streak going, shall we? So the Pirates, of course, off today, taking on the Brewers Tuesday, Wednesday, and in a matinee on Thursday. And then Zambelli Fireworks Night comes up this weekend as the Pirates host the Padres Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to wrap up the month of April, which is a wild sentiment to me that the month of April is already done. But when I look at this, of course, I already mentioned we're going to look at the pitching matchups and see where we're at. Brandon Woodruff, 2-1, 4.3 ERA will face off against Mitch Keller on Tuesday. Wednesday, of course, will be Aaron Ashby and Bryce Wilson, two guys looking for their first win of the year. And, of course, Freddie Peralta versus Jose Quintana, yet another one where both are looking for their first win of the year. I think the Pirates will win one of these three against Milwaukee, purely because of the sentiment that I told you guys earlier, the thing I told you guys earlier, that I just think the Brewers are unequivocally better than Pittsburgh. I just do. They proved that the first time around. This time it's at home. Maybe that changes some things. Maybe it doesn't. But I think the Pirates will win one of those three games. I don't know which one it'll be, but I think one out of three is a perfect – I really think that's just a perfect mix of what I think the Pirates would do, which they'd be 9-11 or 9-10. Yeah, 9-10. Sorry, can't do math. Coming out of that. So then we look at the Padres series. The Padres, of course, have had an interesting start to the year as well with Tatis being out. Yu Darvish versus Zach Thompson on the docket on Friday. Saturday, Sean Manaea and JT Brubaker. And then that would probably mean on Sunday, it would probably be, Mitch Keller again versus Joe Musgrove. Last year, the Pirates were very competitive with the San Diego Padres, and I think that could continue. I think they win 1 out of 3 in that series as well, though. So that would mean I'm predicting 2-4 this week. And I think that you're going to see the bullpen still do well. I definitely think a lot of these games are going to be low-scoring games. I really do. I think both pitching staffs from San Diego and Milwaukee are very good. I think they're going to have issues against those pitching staffs, but we'll see. I mean, I think 2-4 is a reasonable number, and it'll be nice. They'll get to see a division rival Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Joe Musgrove slated to pitch on Sunday. Of course, the former Pittsburgh Pirate. But as far as things that I would expect going into this week, really just expect the bullpen to continue to do well. I also think it's about time for Brian Reynolds to take that step towards who we're used to him being. He has struggled out of the gate a little bit this year. I think Michael Chavis will have a nice bounce back after that 4-strikeout performance on Sunday. But with all that said, we will be covering all of that here on the Locked On Pirates podcast. And pardon me if this episode had a little bit of blooper reel and stuff. I'm just getting myself back up on my feet. But guys, you were all phenomenal. I can't express it more how much I really appreciate you guys. And that's why I wanted to say what I wanted to say at the beginning, and I'll say it again. Your energy towards this podcast for me is what gives me the energy to do it for you. I love this team. I love the fans of this team that actually want to talk baseball, and I couldn't think of any other podcast, any other fan base to be a part of, and I couldn't think of any better listeners to have than the ones that I have now. Thank you guys so much, by the way, for tuning in to the Locked On Pirates podcast. Of course, thank you for making me your first listen of the day every single day, but make your second listen Locked On MLB with Paul Francis Sullivan, but please call him Sully, where he is covering everything going on in the world of baseball every single day, as I will be here with the Pittsburgh Pirates this week. Tomorrow is Twitter Tuesday, so make sure you submit your questions on Twitter at Locked On Pirates. And with all that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm happy to be back. You're getting 5 episodes this week no matter what, and I will see you on the flip side.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.